Hi there, welcome to the Colcester International train fleet update for September 2023. Now, this has become necessary because there has been a few changes to the lineup. Some new locos have been bought, so obviously they need to be included into the list. And I did make a few errors and omissions on the last one that I did as well, so obviously we're going to have to correct those. And basically have a new up-to-date list for everyone to sort of have a look through. So let's carry on now with the steam locomotives. Well, I say locomotives, but we've only got one. It's the good old Flying Scotsman. That's it, the LNER Class A1 in its favourite apple green livery. This one is basically on the board to do sort of excursions, special sort of services, and one-off rail tours and things. When it does come onto Colcester International Station, it will usually use platform 2, and then it will depart again on platform 4. This keeps the main platforms free. So let's go on to the diesel lineup. Now, there have been some new inclusions on this one, so there's a couple of newbies. But we start off with an old one, which is the Class 08 Shunter in rail freight livery. Now this, once again, is not going to do very much. You might see it do the occasional freight train, but it will mostly be pottering around in some of the sidings which have been allocated on the layout. There are sidings at both ends of Colcester International Station and also in the depot. So first of all, you'll see it in the storage yards and that, where it will collect trains, and usually comes out into the depot as well. Like I said, the two sidings at either end of Colcester International, you'll see it sort of pottering around in those and ferrying coaches and trucks. Now, on to passenger services, and we have the Class 43 HST in Virgin livery. This is going to be a multiple stop sort of passenger service, so expect it to sort of stop frequently at Colcester International. There will be stations positioned out on the Garden Loop as well, so it'll be stopping at some of those as it goes outside. In Colcester International, it will be allocated onto platform 1A, which is a slightly shorter one, but it should take the length of the train, and it will come in on platform 4 for return leg. So as the rest of the layout, it will start and finish from the storage yards, because obviously it's a push-pull service. It'll then make its way up and around into Colcester International to stop at the platforms already indicated, and then it'll make its way out onto the Garden Loop and return back in the same way again to complete the trip. Now we have the Class 37 in Network Rail livery. This train is going to be pulling a permanent Network Rail work train, which is made up of a selection of carriages. There's also a breakdown crane available, and the track cleaning coach can also go onto this. But it's complemented by the new Acura Scale Class 37 in revised intercity livery. Now this can also do freight services, but it's possible it might even do some passenger ones as well. I haven't completely decided on that, but keep a lookout on the layout when it's running. It might run a few coaches. Normally though, they will be basically on the layout, and you will see them using the central avoiding line through the middle of the station and going to and from the shed out onto the Garden Loop. Next we have the Class 66 in EWS livery. This has got its own little set of trucks to run with it and a brake van, so that's almost like a fixed formation. It'll probably keep those all the while. But it's supplemented by another Class 66, which is in the NHS revised livery, which has the nameplates of Captain Tom Moore. And this again will be doing a few mixed freight services, possibly even some container traffic. This again will be avoiding the main platforms and using the central avoiding line through the middle of the station, and then it will run to and from the shed out into the Garden Loop as well. Now, brand new loco. This is the Class 68 in TransPennine livery. It's called Splendid, and it does look quite splendid. It comes with its own fixed rake of coaches as well, and a DVT, and it all looks really quite stunning. I really like this livery. It's going to be like a local passenger service. It will be multiple stop, mostly going to Colcester International, coming in onto platform 2, and then when it returns back in again, it will come onto platform number 4. For the rest of the layout, because it's in push-pull formation, it will start and finish from the storage yard. It'll then make its way up into Colcester International to the platforms already mentioned, and then it'll be able to go out of the shed onto the garden loop and return back in the same way. Now we've got a new Class 150 DMU Sprinter in provincial livery. This has been brought in to complement the existing DMU we've got, both of which will be doing commuter services, and the existing one we have is the Class 156 DMU, also in provincial livery. So they'll be doing like multiple stops, both outside in the garden, Furman Smithy and also Colcester. So when they're at Colcester International, they've got their own dedicated bays. So they've got platform 5, which is a bi-directional bay, and likewise they've got platform 1B, which is also bi-directional. So you'll see them start and finish from the storage yards normally. They'll make their way up and make a stop at Furman Smithy, then continue around the board to come into Colcester International, either stopping or starting from one of those two bays, and then completing their journey to go out into the garden and then back in again. So that's the diesels all catered for. Let's move on to the electric fleet. And again, we've had a few additions to this one, but we start off with an old favourite, which is the Class 87. This one's in Virgin livery, so Winston Churchill. I've got a fixed rake of Virgin coaches to go with this one, and I've also just recently got a Virgin DVT that I can fit onto the back of this. The DVT can also go onto the back of a rake of coaches for a forthcoming Class 90, which you'll see in a moment as well. This train will operate in Colcester from platform number 3, and then obviously when it comes back in again, it'll go onto platform number 2. For the remainder of the route then, because of the DVT will be fitted, it can do push-pull starting and finishing from the storage yards, make its way up to Colcester International to the platforms already mentioned, and then it too can go out into the garden and return back in again to complete its trip. So now we have the Class 90s. The first one I've got here is in Swallow livery, and it's the Financial Times. But we'll have another one which is going to be renamed, and this one's going to be renamed Joan Smith in memory of my late wife. That's something I plan to do. We also have another one in Freightliner livery, which will be doing mixed freight duties. We have a further Class 90 which is in the revised Intercity livery, which will be doing passenger services. Again, probably limited stop. And as mentioned before, we have the one in Virgin livery as well, which will be supplementing the Class 87. Now all of these will be doing mostly passenger services apart from the freight ones, so they'll be using platform 3 and then also platform 2. When they go out onto the layout, they'll start and finish from the storage yards because of the DVT, gives them push-pull capability. Make their way up into Colcester International to the platforms already mentioned, and then again they can exit and return back into the shed via the garden loop. Now we have the retooled Class 91s from Hornby. We've got this one in Swallow livery, which is Durham Cathedral. This one is also supplemented by its own rake of coaches and a DVT, which gives them push-pull capability. I've got another one which is called the Fusiliers in the revised LNER livery. And we have a second one of these, which, although it's called the Fusiliers, it will be renamed Brian Smith in memory of my late father. And then we have a fourth one, which is actually the Flying Scotsman. So this basically brings us full circle with the A1 steam loco of the same name and gives us the bridge between steam and electric. I actually quite like that. All of the Class 91s will be operating in push-pull. So basically they'll come into Colcester International and use platform 3, and then when they return they'll be using platform 2. This is to cater for the length of the Mark IV coaches. On the layout itself, because of push-pull, they can start and finish from the storage yards, make their way up to Colcester and then use the aforementioned platforms, and then they can exit the shed and go out onto the garden loop and return back in again to complete their trip. Next we have the Class 350 Desario EMUs in Silverlink livery. We've got 4 of these units. Basically they do a lot of the commuter sort of dog's body work, stopping at all stations. They've also been quite useful for track testing, so you'll probably see them doing that on the Mark IV layout. Now they'll be using Colcester International's platforms 1A, which is obviously the slightly shorter one, and platform number 4, which is on the lower half here, for whenever they go in and out of the station. On the layout, they'll start and finish from the storage yards. They will usually make a stop on the way up at Firm and Smithy Station. Then they'll make the way around and come into Colcester International at the aforementioned platforms. And then they'll usually leave and go out onto the Garden Loop and complete their trip that way, but they could also return into a storage yard. Next we have the Class 373 Eurostar. We've got 2 of these units. These will be limited non-stop services with only a few of them actually stopping at Colcester International. For most of the time, when these trains run through, they'll be used in the central avoiding line, the same as the freight trains do. So that'll be for non-stopping services, but when they do stop, they'll come to platforms 2 and 3, mainly to accommodate the length of the train. So that basically means you'll see them start and finish from the storage yards, make their way up through to Colcester with the occasional one stopping there, and then again out onto the Garden Loop and coming back in again to complete the trip. So next up we've got the Class 395 Javelins EMU in southeastern livery. We've got 4 of these units in 6 car lengths. These will be going basically doing commuter services, slightly limited stop, although I haven't ruled out that they might stop at Firm and Smithy. But when they come into Colcester International, they're going to be allocated onto platform number 2. And then for their return leg, when they go back again, they'll come in onto platform number 4. Then for the rest of the trip around the layout, you'll see them start and finish from the storage yards because of their push-pull capability. They'll make their way up around into Colcester International, and then they'll go out again on the Garden Loop and return back in to complete their trip. Now, finally, we have the Class 800 Azuma in LNER livery. We've got 4 of these units in a fixed 5-car setup. They actually look quite impressive. I really do like these units. They're some of my favourites. Now these will be doing limited stop high-speed express services. Basically they will be doing push-pull as well, so they'll be able to run in both directions. And when they go into Colcester International, they're going to be allocated onto platform number 2 in one direction, and then on their return trip when they come back in again, they'll come in onto platform number 4. So when you see them going around on the layout, they'll be able to start and finish from the storage yards again because they are push-pull. They'll make their way up into Colcester International onto the platforms already mentioned, and then they can exit and go out onto the Garden Loop and return back in again to complete the trip. So that's basically the lineup as it is now, but we have got couple on pre-order, so I'll just run through what that one is. And that particular one is the Stadler Flirt, the Class 755, announced by Hornby recently. I've got 2 of these units on pre-order. I'm quite looking forward to these coming through, and they will complement the fleet of Class 350s and work alongside those. So that's basically it. I hope you've enjoyed this little update. Obviously there are more films going to be coming out regarding the Mark IV layout. So don't forget to hit that subscribe, click on the notification bell, and then obviously keep in touch. And there'll be more coming soon. Until then, bye for now.